pretty nice scenes in the room post-match. How enjoyable was that?
Yeah, well, it's always special when you get a milestone game like Luke McDonald playing his 200th game this week, and the fact that he's a father son, and it's a couple of generations of McDonald's been involved in our footy club. It's pretty special. You throw on top of that the fact that we haven't won too many games over the last little while. Then, needless to say, it was hardly a convincing victory, but we'll take them any way we can get them at the moment.
What was the most impressive part of it?
Well, I love the battle between the two big bulls in the ruck. The Nankervis Sherry. Nank probably won't like me saying this, but he's probably well and truly into the twilight of his career, and Sherry's just getting going with his. So I just love that battle. It was just pure footy at its best. Two big bulls going at it, and I really enjoyed the battle between Archer and Bolton. We rate him very, very highly, Bolton. Very, very clever player, very creative, and he does scoreboard damage on a regular basis. So for Arch to keep him to 12 touches and have 20 himself, and I think Bolton got a goal right at the start of the third quarter, but Arch's fist is just right there. I think for all North supporters who have just watched this kid emerge over the course of the year, particularly the last 8 to 10 weeks, we've given him some really big jobs, no bigger than today's, and he just continues to grow as a player. And we shouldn't be surprised given his surname, but we're just wrapped with his progress, and think we've really found a player there.
LDU, pretty important as well.
Yeah. Well, he's kicked 3. That third one, I think he kicked off his kneecap, which was a bit fortunate, but. He made a blue on his. He's such a proud man, such a competitor, and made a blue where he turned the footy over and Richmond got a goal, and then out of the centre bounce, the very next play, he laid a tackle, got on the end of the ball, kicked the goal himself. That's what you love about those type of players that want to compete, and you've got such pride in their performance. If they make a mistake, they want to rectify it as soon as they possibly can. And if you him have scoreboard impact like he did with 3 goals, as well as being probably the most dominant midfielder on the ground, he's had a really, really good year for us, and continues to grow as a player, continues to grow as a leader within the walls of our footy club, and we're going to be better as a footy club because of the input that he contributes to our team.
Alistair, how did you think your defenders went today? Comden, Core, and Jaden Stevenson, when the pressure was really on, they really stood up, particularly in that last quarter when the Tigers were starting to make a bit of a charge. Yeah.
Comden and Core, in particular, they were really, really strong for us, and they had to defend a lot of inside 50s. Richmond ended up having 60 inside 50s. I think 20 of those came in the first quarter. The first 15 minutes of the game was a horror story for our side. They had I think they had 15 inside 50s in the first 10 or 15 minutes of the game, and we just could not get it out of our back end. And so, to have 60 inside 50s against and only 10 goals by the opposition, I think it was 10 that the Tigers kicked, was probably testament to those bigger lads actually providing the contest for us to repel some of those attacks by the Tigers, and Core and Common were a key part of negating that.
And also, it felt like a little bit in the last quarter you tended to overuse the handball, but that was more for trying to get through that zone that Richmond were doing in the middle of the ground. So how did you sort of assess that, and particularly in the latter part of the game, because it felt like you were nearly going back into self-preservation mode?
Yeah, well, in Richmond's DNA is this capacity to turn the game into chaos and quick ball movement, and they needed to do that. They were 3 goals down at three-quarter time. We half predicted that they were going to take enormous risks, and we had what comes with taking enormous risk with the footy yourself is the risk you're going to turn it over give opportunities to the opposition. And we had those opportunities early in the last quarter, and we just couldn't capitalise on them. Richmond were needing to take a risk to get themselves back into the game and to try and win it. And we just didn't capitalise on some of the turnovers. With the risk came the opportunity for us to get the ball back, and we did. And we didn't use it anywhere near as well as we could on the way back to punish them. And that's to the credit of the Richmond side. And that's why, as a club, they've won flags over the last 6 to 8 years. But we're in a learning phase with that as a young group. We're the youngest side in the competition this week by a long way, and a significant. We're giving up 40 or 50 games of experience across the board to the Richmond side today, as well as a couple of years. So for us to win that game of footy, there's still a significant amount of players in that side that are Richmond Premiership players, and so we'll take some confidence out of that we were down and out early and found a way to get back into the game in the second and third quarter, and didn't manage the first part of the last quarter as well as we'd like, but probably from about the 10 or 15 minute mark of the last quarter to the end of the game, thought we managed things a hell of a lot better than we did in the first 10 minutes of the last quarter.
Do you see it as a reward for effort for over the last 5 or 6 weeks you've taken it up to some top 8 sides, and now you get that reward with the win?
Yeah, we'll take any win as we can get right at the moment, as I said earlier. But our consistency around applying ourselves to contests in that part of the game since the bye has been really strong, and it was strong again today. But both sides just made a lot of errors with the footy today by hand and foot, and a lot of turnover goals, and both sides are going to need to get better at that if they're going to progress up the ladder, us included. Kicking efficiency, handball efficiency is going to need to improve for both of our sides. I'm sure Ooze will say the same thing about his boys at Tigerland. So, we have competed really, really strongly over the last little while, and you give yourself a chance if you can compete in the contest strongly.
For the second year in a row, you've pushed away from the bottom of the ladder late in the season. Last year, there was a bit of negative commentary around that. How does it feel today?
It's never part of the DNA of coaches or players really to go easy on opposition. I quite often talk to our players about it. It's like getting a pair of boxing gloves for Christmas from your parents when you're a kid and you're boxing with your brother and you're just dancing around and everything's a bit of shadow boxing until one punch just hits a little bit harder than you expect it to do, and then it's game on, and that's just against your brother. So these boys want to compete, they want to play, they want to win, and we'll take as many wins as we possibly can, and where that ends us up with in terms of ladder position and draft picks and that sort of stuff, it's like that'll work itself out, and particularly in this draft where it's just so even. Then wins are more important to this footy club right now than worrying about where we finish on the ladder.
And you'd be pretty happy with Dersma as a pick after today. It looks pretty good in the air.
Yeah, listen, he's got a lot to learn in the game, but his potency with the ball in flight is really, really strong, and he took a great catch today, but he was not quite as dangerous or as involved in the game as we'd like, and that's just a learning curve for a young player. It's really, really hard for any player in the competition really to be a consistent contributor as a forward. That's why we're just so pleased with what Arch was able to do on Bolton, because he has shown over a long period of time that he can play that forward midfield role really, really well, and he falls between the cracks a little bit, Bolton, because he does spend time forward midfield, and the handover between players and that sort of stuff is where he does his damage. For young Dersma, he just needs to learn that craft. It's a tough caper, but he's progressing nicely for us.
You've got West Coast next week, another good opportunity for a win. How important is it for the group to learn to back up a win with another good performance?
Yeah, well, they were really impressive last night against Gold Coast over in the West, and a little bit like the Tigers. If you look at the spine of their side, with Allen and Darling and Waterman in their front end and their back end with McGovern and not sure if Barras will be back next week or not, but if they've got those, if Barras comes back, you know, the spine of their club is actually really strong, and you know, with Kelly and Duggan and these guys through the middle of the ground. So yeah, they played some good footy last night, but they're last a little bit like us, and you know, the Tigers haven't been dreadful in the last 6 or 8 weeks either. You know, they've been really, really competitive, and you know, we're concerned, you know, with Nankervis. Obviously Dusty, who can be a superstar, obviously, and Graham coming into the side. You know, anything can happen. They're experienced premiership players, all three of those guys, and the same thing with West Coast. You know, they've got some experienced senior players that have played a lot of footy. So we're pleased that it's down at Blundstone. That'll make it perhaps a little bit easier for us that it's our home ground rather than theirs. But they're a formidable side playing good footy, and if we allow them to get off the chain and play the way they want to play, they'll do damage to any opposition, and it's our challenge to try to negate some of their strengths.
Are you likely to get Wardlaw or Griffin Logue back next year?
No, we'll get neither of those, I don't think. I think George has to fall into the sort of 12-day concussion protocols, which started from Thursday. So I think he'll miss, which is unfortunate. And Griff Logue won't play at all. He's seen a specialist with that wrist, and he's ruptured a ligament in his wrist, and he'll require surgery on that he'll have this week sometime. But he'll miss the last part of the year, which is unfortunate. But that's the brutal nature of our game. We're really pleased for Griff that, albeit it was only 2 games this year, that he did get himself back. You know, those 2 games he played against possibly the 2 best forwards in the competition, and really competed strongly against both those guys. You know, he played on Curnow 1 week against Carlton, and the next week he plays on Jeremy Cameron. So for him, in terms of his body and getting back to actually feel that he can play, and then also against opponents that are just like really, really formidable opponents, it's a really good step for him. Disappointed that he's going to miss the last 4 games of the year, but hopefully he rehabs this injury well, and he'll be right to go start of pre-season.
Yeah, is that the time frame at this stage, or is it still too early? Like, he will be okay for start of pre-season?
Yeah, I think the recovery from that type of surgery is about 3 or 4 months. So that would from now that equates to a start of November or mid-November or somewhere thereabouts. So and that's full recovery. So yeah, he'll be back running and doing that sort of stuff within a couple of weeks of his surgery, really. But that's disappointing for us. You know, we've had he's played a dozen games for the footy club in the time that he's been here. But as I said, that's the brutal nature of footy. He plays like a beast in the back end, and he's subjected to risk with injury. And but hopefully he gets a good run at it from this point on, because we really feel like he's a significant part of our tall timber down back.
After a bit of a slow start for Harry Cheezel today, he really had some impactful moments, particularly in the third quarter and then the last. How did you assess his game? And also, Nick Larkey was playing a little bit higher up the ground today.
Both those guys made solid contributions for us, and it was a strange sort of day though, and that both sides didn't capitalise on the types of opportunities they could. You'd think that with better foot and handball skills by both teams, that it would have been a high quality contest. But as I said, we're just happy with the win, and we move on and get ourselves ready for West Coast next week. Good on you guys. Thank you.